Hi, Katie.
Hello. 82%. That's the proportion of employees in your businesses that have ideas. However, a third of those feel they're not listened to, and over half feel that their ideas are not actioned. I know this is a statistic that Will spoke about earlier, but it really goes to show that there's more that we need to do. I'm going to start this talk with an exercise. If you've been part of or you've run an employee ideas campaign in the past 5 years, please can you stand up? Get the blood flowing, guys. Great. If you feel that that campaign was amazing, excellent, nothing went wrong with it, you wouldn't change any of it for the world, please can you sit down? Exactly. Can I have a brave volunteer tell me one thing that they learned during running their Employee Ideas campaign? You're already standing. You're thinking about it.
What will I learn? Communication is key.
Communication is key, exactly. Is there anybody else who wants to add something to that? Hannah?
I was going to say, follow up on the ideas, keep following up on them regularly. But it's easy to sort of run a campaign and then kind of move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the truth is, every single campaign is different. And the reasons for that, of course, are that there are a plethora of reasons why you would run a campaign. But not only that, is everyone's company here is different, and there's a different culture. And for that reason, there's so many different things to learn from each campaign. So if you did learn something from your campaign, please can you sit down? Wow, everybody learned something. And that just goes to show you that it would be great if we could share that knowledge with each other. I want to welcome to the floor my colleague Justine, who's the Head of Customer Success at Sideways 6. Go on, you go to that side, Justine.
Thank you.
Justine's been involved in helping support the campaigns of our customers over the past 2 years, and obviously has learned a lot in that process.
Hi, everyone. Today, Katie and I wanted to share with you our top tips that we've learned from helping our customers run employee idea schemes over the last 5 years. We're going to split our talk into 2 sections, so things that you can do before the launch and then things that you can do after the launch.
Fantastic. So we're going to start with before the launch. And our first top tip, as is famously said everywhere in conferences, is to start with why, of course. So what that means is you really need to work out before you do anything else why you want to run your Employee Ideas campaign. And obviously there's just so many reasons why you could run a campaign. And you know, those are literally just 3 of many that you could choose. And in some campaigns, obviously, you're trying to achieve multiple things. For our customers, we've had customers running campaigns for lots of different reasons. AstraZeneca, for example, ran the AZ 2025 campaign, which was around basically inviting the employee into the boardroom to talk about the strategy and give their ideas. Obviously not literally, but in essence. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you can just focus on a cost-cutting campaign. For example, Diageo ran a campaign called #IfItWasMyMoney, and that was just focused on saving money in different areas. Once you've worked out your why, you can then focus on who. Who is your audience? Who's your target audience? Who are you trying to reach in your campaign? Once you know the answer to this question, it will affect which method you use to reach those people. For example, where do they gather? How can you remove the friction from them submitting an idea? When you know your why and you know your who, you need to work out a great campaign name, of course, which obviously touches a little bit on the branding stuff that Alan was talking about. If your campaign is around culture, is maybe a longer lasting campaign, you want a name that has longevity. So perhaps if you're a pharma company, #FeelGoodIdeas, you can have that one for free. Whereas if you want to go for maybe a shorter campaign that is really specifically targeted in one specific area, you might choose an idea, a campaign name which has a little bit of humour attached to it, which can go a long way. Say in 3 to 4 words, you want to be able to communicate exactly what sort of ideas you're after. So obviously your target audience can read that and go, okay, I'm interested. And that moves us on to the second top tip.
Knowing what a good idea looks like. so you have a clear purpose for your campaign, and you've also got a clear question that you're asking, but actually, what information do you need from your idea submitters to process all of these amazing ideas at scale? Defining that criteria beforehand and then sharing it with your idea submitters can help increase the quality of ideas that you get and actually the amount. For example, would it be really useful to know the area of a business that that idea could impact beforehand and get the idea submitter to state that in their initial idea submission? Or what about if it was a quick win or needed an implementation plan, for example? You want to give your idea submitters confidence and clarity to make them feel really included in the ideas campaign. On to top tip number 3, Katie.
Getting company buy-in. Now there's 2 groups that you really need to approach before you launch your campaign in order to, be as successful as you possibly can. The first group is almost like your extended campaign team. It's a range of different people. If we start with the top, you need to get the senior stakeholders on board. So from our experience, we found that when the senior stakeholders are bought into the idea behind the campaign is likely to be much more successful. And the reason for that is that these people can give confidence to the ranks, basically, and encourage them to submit their ideas. You also want to tap into the naysayers. Now, these are people who are going to naturally want to pick holes in your campaign. So you better do it before you launch your campaign, because they really can help your campaign become bulletproof. And for every naysayer, don't forget that there will be a champion, so perhaps make a champions network. These are people on the ground who are actually going to build organic momentum for your campaign when it's running. The other group of people that you need to tap into in advance is the employees, of course. They're the people who are going to be submitting ideas. And as with working out the purpose of your campaign, you want to start with why. Why should your employees care? Because, let's be honest, they already have a job. You need to start with why. You need to let them know everybody's on the innovation team. Bear in mind, if your employees have never done something like this before, then they might struggle to find time for it, and they might also be fearful of providing an idea, not knowing whether it will be actioned or not. So there's a lot of comms to do in order to build that culture where people are happy to share their ideas. And that moves on to the top tip number 4.
Planning a path to success. So we have some customers in the room that have worked with me and run very successful, brilliantly awesome campaigns. I'm sure you'll agree. And some of the things that we did was we really thought about the logistics of the campaign prior to launching the campaign. So things that we considered were the obvious things: the launch date, how long the campaign is going to run for. But what we also did was thought about other things that could be happening in the business that might conflict with our campaign. So making sure we had a prime time spot to run our initiatives. Also thinking about the resource required. So have we identified all of the subject matter experts that we need to assess these amazing ideas that are coming into our campaign? Have we secured any funding that we might need to bring those ideas to life at the end of the campaign? And what about recognition? Sometimes a little bit of a tricky subject and from organisation to organisation, but we found that enabling and allowing the idea submitter to be involved in that idea as it's brought to life can really help to show them that they're valued within the business. After the launch, Katie.
Right, so we've already covered off a couple of points we rattled through there of what you need to do before you launch your campaign. Now we've got a couple to cover for the after launch. I'm going to take you through a cautionary tale to begin with, and hopefully this doesn't sound familiar yet, but obviously it's a risk. Say you follow all of our pre-launch tips. You've created excitement around your campaign. People can't wait to submit their ideas. They know what you're looking for. They know the criteria. They know how they're going to be recognised. However, you launch without fanfare, and then the ideas maybe just trickle in, not too many. What's gone wrong? How can we stop such a thing from happening? And that's why top tip number 5 is keeping the momentum. So, pre-launch excitement, I've already mentioned. You need to obviously work on a plan after you've launched, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. So point 2 there is taking off with a bang. Now, you want to launch a campaign and you can do lots of different things to do this. So one thing that's very popular would be to actually run a CEO live stream on the Enterprise Social Network, where the CEO is talking about the campaign and getting everyone excited and letting them know this thing's getting launched. And that's something actually that MenCap did, and I'm sure Karen will be touching on this, so I won't steal her thunder. At the other end of the spectrum there's just so many things you can do to launch a campaign. One of them could be, for example, even to run a hackathon over half a day or a day event, where you actually gather up the people who you want to submit ideas, and also with some subject matter experts and the C-suite, and you actually get them in a room and you kind of make it real and talk about coming up with ideas together, and that can really create a new culture as well. Then obviously you have the risk that the campaign's been running for a couple of weeks and attention starts to be diverted elsewhere, probably onto their actual day jobs. So we need to keep the campaign in their minds. So how do we do that? Well, Centrica is actually a great example of this with what they do. They run a monthly newsletter which picks up on number of ideas submitted and picks on a couple of ideas which have been the top ideas submitted in that time, keeping everyone engaged. The frequency of this communication is obviously going to be specific to your campaign. Other things you can do there would be to have a viral element to your campaign, such as the Avios light bulbs, which kind of does the work for you in a way with keeping the campaign in people's minds. And obviously keeping people in the loop, so that's something that Hannah also said. You really need to reply to people when they actually submit an idea and let them know where the idea is in the workflow. You can run collaboration events during this time as well, a bit like the hackathon I mentioned, and perhaps even provide prizes to people or recognition once a week, once a month, best idea, so that they know this isn't just something where at the end of 3 months, one person will have the winning idea. We value every single submission. Approaching destination. So that one is saying, as you come towards the end of the campaign, that's a really great period to boost the number of ideas submitted, because you have quite a few stragglers who wanted to get an idea in, and now they know that the campaign's about to close. You normally have a rush of ideas in this period, so let them know. And then making the mission a legend. What that's about is once the campaign is over, contacting people, letting them know, thank you for taking part, collecting some feedback, and obviously letting them know what happened to their ideas and which ones will be implemented. And that brings us nicely on to point 6.
Paving the way for future campaigns. So you've run your campaign, it was a roaring success, and you're wrapping things up. How do you secure buy-in for future campaigns? And what we believe in is to communicate. So you need to communicate upwards to the leadership team, but don't just focus on talking about ideas that have been implemented. Share the stories, share the little pockets of conversations that have happened that may have had nothing to do with the question that you're asking, but actually raise really valid points. And then back down to the employees. You want to let them know that their voices have been heard. They know that not all of their ideas are going to be implemented, but what matters to them is that they have been listened to. So if you can give them a summary of the impact that the campaign has had on their business, that's what's going to be really appreciated.
Fantastic. So those are our 6 top tips, and I know we've obviously rattled through them quite quickly. We had a lot of, obviously there's a lot of different tips we could have given you today, but we didn't want to do an hour-long presentation. It was very close. So obviously we've thrown a lot at you, and hopefully it was useful. But if you do want to learn more about it, we'll obviously be around in networking, and in your bags is the ultimate guide to employee ideas, which is one of our recent publications. And if you just want to have a read of that, we've just scratched the surface of it, so there's so much more to this that we'd be happy to discuss with you.
And what Katie and I wanted to leave with you today is that we know that creating change and making it happen in all of your big businesses is actually really hard, but we do truly believe that if it's done the right way, it is very possible. Thank you.